Just when you thought it was safe to get back into the water, the markets are mixed this morning. They were all up in the pre-market, but as things opened up this morning, things started getting jumbled around. It seemed on the one hand that maybe the tariff question, the issues around tariffs might be baked into the current market. It seemed maybe that the idea that the war is over in the Ukraine might be baked into the market. But there's still tensions about the Ukraine, and there's still some tensions about the tariffs. And then there's Israel that's creating some more tensions. Overall, I think there's just still some tensions out there. There's also some questions about whether the Tesla nonsense is all baked in, all the, people protesting at the various locations, people giving the finger to some of our friends out there who are driving around in their Cybertrucks, painting or otherwise defacing the vehicles. All of that might be baked in at this point. The headlines might be baked in about Tesla's numbers being down in Europe or in the United States. All that might be baked in because even as the market is mixed this morning, Tesla's up a little bit. It had been up quite nicely over 300 in the pre-market. Now it's struggling around that number, trying, it seems, to get above it. But we'll see. I know that for all of the major, friendly bulls are all reporting this morning. So I got Dan Ives. He says on Investors Business Daily, he's more bullish than ever, saying he now sees Optimus taking Tesla to $3 trillion in value. So up until the last time that he spoke, that I saw, that I think has been reported, he was talking about Tesla at 2 trillion because of robotaxi. So I guess this is a rough guess as to what he's saying. Is he's got about 1 trillion for the base business, he's got about 1 trillion for the robotaxi business, and he's got about another trillion now for the Optimus business. So we'll see how all that plays out. So then Cathie Wood, she says she is, this is Yahoo Finance, says that Cathie Wood is sticking with the electric vehicle maker Tesla after a rough February. The ARK investment founder says there is a lot of pent-up demand for Tesla vehicles. Yep. The big valuation unlock, in her view, is Tesla releasing robotaxis across the country. So she says, I now think they're going to start seeding every state with robotaxis and their full self-driving. According to our tech calculations, their robotaxi will be safer in the fourth quarter than human drivers are. Wood told me in a Bitcoin Investor Week conference. Wood has consistently said that she sees Tesla stock hitting 2,600 by 2029. And then we have, of course, over the weekend, Elon Musk saying that the earnings would be 10 times what they are now in 2029, 2030. And that would, of course, if that's true, we would be looking at probably a roughly 10 times increase in the stock price. We have this from Sir Basher this morning. Morgan Stanley analysts led by Adam Jonas note that every 1% of U.S. labor force that can be captured by Tesla's Optimus is worth approximately $100 a share. The U.S. labor force is about 170 million people. So 1% of that would be 1.7 million robots. So for every 1.7 million bots, assuming a one-for-one replacement, that's a 300 billion in market cap for Tesla. At 17 million bots, that is 3 trillion. At 170 million bots, that's 30 trillion. Now let's assume that Jonas used a 30 PE. So a 300 billion market cap means that Tesla would earn 10 billion in profit. And 10 billion in profit divided by 1.7 million bots is only 5,882 in profit per year per bot, which seems shockingly low. Eventually, that might be true. He says Optimus is more valuable than that, and that's from our buddy Sir Basher. Now, this is from Teslarati. Videos of zero takeover FSD drives are starting to emerge from China. It says Tesla's city autopilot definitely seems to be more than meets the eye. Tesla Chan has this. He says, breaking, Elon Musk's Tesla has finalized the first location for a showroom in India. According to a report, it is said to have leased a space in Mumbai's Bandra Kurla complex. An affordable model coming to India, it asks the question. AJ has this morning. He says, I estimate that Tesla's first quarter 2025 EPS, non-GAAP and diluted, is 42 to 43 cents. That's on a range of 363 to 283,000 deliveries. Despite the 20,000 deliveries delta, the EPS impact is only 0.016 cents, so roughly 1.5 cents, which creates the narrow headline EPS margin of 0.42 and 0.43. So he's got, between 0.42 and 0.43. This is significantly below the currently stale consensus by the street, and I expect consensus to be revised down as analysts provide their updates closer to the earnings release. He says, primary drivers of this information, of what he's just come up with, this is comprised of: one, lower auto volume with partial offset from higher ASP. Okay, so we're going to have less cars shipped, but there's going to be a higher ASP. Number two, lower energy storage deployments in line with CFO guidance and expected further margin compression in the energy business. I think he's going to be wrong on this. I think it's going to be higher energy storage deployments, and don't know about the margins. No Bitcoin gain, he says. Number three, no Bitcoin gain in the first quarter. At 93,000, Bitcoin trades at Tesla's current book value and thus is neutral. And then B, the document is based, his analysis, and there's a lot to it if you want to go on X and look at it, is based on assumed 383,000 deliveries, his base case, and he'll update that as we get closer. Let's see. I'd like to point out that the quarter is the most difficult to forecast in several years. The number of known material unknowns hasn't been larger in a long time. So you've got all kinds of things impacting the flow of both energy and also cars, in particular because of the Model Y changeover. We just don't know yet how fast those cars are going to be coming out of the factory. I think it's pretty clear that they'll sell every one of the Model Ys that they can possibly produce in the month of March. So that's not going to be an issue. So it's going to be how many can they make? It's basically what it boils down to. This is from Rapid Response 47, the Real P. Navarro. Don't forget the 3Ds, he says. DOGE, deregulation, and drill, baby, drill. That's the Trump strategy to bring down the inflation, to bring it down dramatically, and anything that happens with tariffs is a second order issue. So you got deregulation, that's going to bring down inflation. That's going to improve productivity, bring down inflation. You got the DOGE, which is going to reduce the cost of government, which is going to reduce interest rates, which is going to reduce inflation. And then you got drill, baby, drill. Oil is the blood of all economy. Oil and natural gas show up at almost everything you see and do, every product you buy. Even if it's just the packaging, but even food, it's got to be transported. Every aspect of the food process got transported in it, which means oil. So if you get the oil prices down, which we do, we got the Texas Intermediate at $70 a barrel. You've got gasoline at almost the lowest point it's been in a year. You've got all of those things are already happening and should show up in the grocery store and are already showing up at the pumps. This is Randy Kirk. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit notify. Got Brian White later tonight at 7:45 and Larry Goldberg probably around 5-ish tonight. I'll be running a little later on our Monday night with Larry. Okay, we have got this from Libs of TikTok. I don't quote Libs of TikTok very often. She is quoting Palantir's CEO, Alex Karp, regarding the Democratic attacks on DOGE and Elon Musk. He says this is yet another example of progressive Democrats backing themselves into a suicide dance. There are two revolutions happening, he says, transparency and AI. So why don't we know where every penny of our money goes? Transparency. Have you noticed the transparency? You've got administrative people out on every talk show. You've got administrative people coming out with administration people in DC coming out all day, every day, uh, giving updates on what they're doing. You've got Trump coming out tomorrow night to give a State of the Union address about what's already happened in the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks of the administration. And so we're seeing it. It's exciting. It's fun, as I've mentioned before, and I think you're probably seeing it too. It's interfering with my TV time because it's really way more interesting than any of the programs on television. Reuters has this morning. Britain said on Monday that there were several possible proposals on the table for a Ukraine ceasefire after France floated a proposal for a month-long initial truce that could pave the way for peace talks. There are clearly a number of options on the table, according to Prime Minister Keir Starmer. I'm just not getting into a running commentary on the options. European countries led by Britain and France are looking at options for a peace proposal, including Ukraine in those talks after last week's Oval Office rupture between the United States President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Apparently, Zelensky says he's ready to sign, and he also is saying that he sees no reason why he can't put his relationship back together with Trump. So anyway, that should be good news. Starmer hosted a summit of European leaders in London on Sunday and said European leaders had agreed to drop a Ukraine peace plan to present to the United States. Everybody in Europe is saying, we can't do this without the United States. What are you kidding? In an interview given on his way to the summit, French President Emmanuel Macron said he raised the possibility of a 1-month ceasefire. Just said that. Such a truce on air, sea, and energy infrastructure would allow us to determine whether Russian President Vladimir Putin is acting in good faith when he commits to a truce. I don't think that's the way that President Trump wants to do it, but we'll see. The S&P Global U.S. Manufacturing PMI rose to 52.7 in February 2025, surpassing the preliminary estimate of 51.6. That's a good raise for manufacturing, improving from January's 51.2. The reading signaled the second consecutive month of expansion in the sector and the strongest growth since June of 2022. Output grew at the strongest pace since May of 22, when new orders rose at their fastest rate in a year. This would be really good news. Then from this economic activity, this is the other ISM report on business. And by the way, I said yesterday the ISM report was not a PMI. It is a PMI. It is also a purchasing manager's survey. So these are two surveys, both on manufacturing, both coming out the same day. Interestingly, economic activity in the manufacturing sector expanded for the second month in a row in February after 26 consecutive months of contraction, according to the nation's supply executives. The Institute of Supply Management Manufacturing Business Survey Committee. The manufacturing PMI registered 50.3% in February, 0.6 percentage points lower compared to 50.9 in January, but still above the 50% line. The overall economy continues in expansion for the 58th month after a 1 month of contraction in April, but that's the overall economy. That includes services and government. A manufacturing PMO above 42.3 over a period of time generally indicates expansion. The new orders index dropped back into contraction territory, unfortunately, after expanding for 3 months. The February reading of the production index is 1.8% lower than January's figure. The index expanded for a second month in a row after 8 months in contraction. The prices index surged further into expansion territory, registering 62.4%, up 7.5 percentage points. It's not what we want to see. The backlog of orders index registered 46.8, up 1.9 percentage points. And the employment index registered 47.6%, which was down 2.7%. So overall, not as good as January, but continuing in expansion territory. So both reports agreeing with one another. And then just before I came on the air, we had the construction spending report coming out. Construction spending during January was estimated at a seasonally adjusted annual rate, who cares, of 2.192 billion, 0.5 billion, which is 0.2% below the revised December estimate. The January figure is 3.3% above last year's January. Private construction was up a little bit, annual rate of 0.2%. Residential construction was up, up 4%. I'm sorry, did I get that right? Residential construction was seasonally adjusted annual rate 0.4% below. I'm sorry, I thought that was right. So residential construction was below. That conforms with everything else that we're hearing about residential construction. And then non-residential construction was at an annual rate of $753 billion, virtually unchanged. Public construction, seasonally adjusted annual rate of public construction spending was 0.1% above. So you see, you've got a little up. So it's really kind of a flat. The construction numbers are kind of flat. All right. So construction numbers, of course, were pretty good all of last year, but most of it was government, and some of it early in the year was in apartment buildings, but that slowed down. All right. So where are we then as this mixed market continues? Well, the Dow Jones is still up 0.05%, not very much. It's come down from much higher earlier, but it is now starting to tick up again. NASDAQ is down 0.28%. It also is heading towards the green. Looks very much like it will go through the green. S&P is down 0.08%, and it is also very close to the green. So Tesla, which had been down, which started off quite nicely this morning above 300, dropped down to about 297, is now at $300.01, are up 2.40. So Tesla is leading the way. The rest of the Mag 7 are now also kind of following the rest of the market, but here's the exciting one. Not exciting. Here's the one that's a little hard to figure. You got NVIDIA at $119.35, down 4.46%. I'm getting ready to buy NVIDIA. I'm kidding. I'm not. But man, they're saying the argument is that NVIDIA is still being impacted by all the worries about tariffs into China. Or coming out of China, and their ability to sell into China. But man, 119.67, I think it's not investment advice. What do I know? So anyway, the good news is Tesla continues up $300.98 now. All right, Cathie Woods are almost all up, with ARKG being the one exception, which is down 1.79. That's odd. That's weird, because all the rest are up. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at bonds, which were going the right direction last time I checked. Let's see if they continue to do so. So we have got the 10-year down 3.2 basis points at 4.197, under that 4.2. That's good news. Let's see if we can, this week, we want to get it down under 4, get it down into the 3s. This would be certainly possible. Let's see if we can get it done. We have got the 2-month unchanged this morning, and the 2-year basically up 1 basis point at just over 4. Okay, let's go ahead and look at oil, which was not going my favorite direction this morning. I want oil to drop. It is dropping. Now it is. Okay, so we're now under 70 again, 69.47, down 0.27 cents. And the interesting thing is Brent has now come down to only $3 difference again. So that would suggest, at least in the oil patch, there's some comfort about what's happening in the overseas markets. And natural gas rebounding. Bargain hunters, I would think, after it dropped radically all last week, we are now back up to $3.94, up 2.74 this morning. Gold also bargain hunters, I'm thinking. After almost getting to 3,000, it had dropped down to 28.50. Now we're at 28.96, up $48 this morning. Silver following suit, up 2.93% at $32.43. Copper also up 1.82% at $4.63, kind of where it's been. We've got the Bitcoin, after exploding yesterday on the news that the Treasury Department was going to create a crypto reserve. And it jumped 14,000, but now has dropped 3,473 so far today, sitting at 90,638. All right, that is the whole list of the things that we look at each morning together. We do want to go back and remind you that coming up later today, Larry Goldberg, probably around 5-ish. Then we got Brian White at exactly 7:45. And then last night, you did not watch Brian Wong, and you should. Last night, we were talking about what's coming up with Starship and Starlink, the various flights that are coming, what the flights are going to accomplish, or what they hope to accomplish, what's going to happen later this year, what's going to happen in the next year as we go towards the Mars landings. Also, what's happening with Starlink and what's that really going to mean? Because all of it impacts the Elon Musk empire, and all have cross currents with everything that's happening out there. So I'm really going to recommend that you go back and take a look at that. I'm going to put the link up right here. And then, what else do I want to say before I go? Oh, yeah, I want to say, here's what's happening with Tesla. It's just flirting around with that 300. It's back down under 300 at 299.25. As we say adieu. It has been nice talking to you.